Sure, but I don't
yeah.
feel like the people that like Hades are the same people that are gonna want to sit in a game with 32 of their favorite people.
They don't have to be your favorite people. They can be assholes. They can be...
Sure.
Hey, listen, if you were giving me, like, 10 planets and each one of those planets was, like, the content and the size of a Skyrim, that's way more than I ever needed.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
So...
Skyrim was big enough. I keep thinking to myself, well, depending on how you want to do Chimera and Manticore, my god, that's a lot of heads. That's a lot of heads on there. Alex, are you ready for a Pebble showcase?
I'm ready for a knockdown and a knockout.
A knockout. Oh, well, we've got a wonderful plethora of things for people to enjoy. All three new things to discuss here on the show. Welcome, everybody, to Total Pebble Knockdown. I am Nathan.
And I am Alex.
And on this episode, we're giving you a showcase of content. Hope you enjoy. Alex, as you're probably aware, this is the time of year where all the game studios come out and they start talking about their showcases, new products that are coming out for the coming year. We've had them from Sony and Ubisoft, and pretty much all the companies have been coming out and, telling us about the new stuff.
Yeah, all the companies, Microsoft and Sony and Ubisoft.
Yes.
That's all of them. No other companies are existing, so it's fine.
I can't remember any of the others off the top of my head. Well, there was a Summer Game Fest. There was really one that I actually sat down and watched from start to finish. And that was the Microsoft Showcase, the Xbox Game Showcase for 2023. And I'm kind of glad that it's the one that I chose to watch, because it really was one of the better showings, I think, that they've had this year, that Xbox has had, but out of all the conferences, I think it was really, really strong, which they needed, because last year was fairly pathetic, and but they needed to have a win, as a lot of people said, and I think that they did. And there's a lot of things that I could go over. Cyberpunk 2077, there's new DLC coming out, which I have actually heard. Side note, not just that the new DLC is coming out, but in that, CD Projekt Red has done a ton of tweaks to things like the AI to make the enemies far more intelligent, and that's actually also part of the base game, so it's not just the DLC, it's changes to the actual base game that they're actually making. We also got more information about obviously some of the new reboots and stuff. Payday 3 is going to be coming out, so goody for you, everyone who likes that. Microsoft Flight Simulator and the new City Skylines. One that I was surprised by, even though I'm not going to play it still, is Sea of Thieves is going to do a Legend of Monkey Island expansion.
Oh, okay.
I was like, that's kind of awesome. I love that. And Guybrush Threepwood, as the old man huddled away in a hermit cave, and LeChuck comes in and everything. And it's like, okay, that's awesome. I still am not playing Sea of Thieves, but I love that as a concept. That's great. But I think what I was really impressed by, and the thing I wanted to actually focus on, is the amount of new IPs that are coming out from existing studios, and the ones that they all wanted to cite. Fable is a remake, obviously, although I'm excited about that.
They're remaking Fable?
They're remaking Fable.
Or are they remastering it? Or
no, this is a brand new game. This is a brand new game.
Oh, so they're pulling a God of War.
Exactly. They are pulling a God of War. Fable is being done by Playground Games. They're pretty well known for the Horizon series, the Forza Horizon series. So this is a little bit of a departure. It's been in
Fable's not really a car driving game, but I guess it's fine.
No, it's a departure for them. It's definitely different, although I think if they're trying to do some of those open world elements possibly in this, it makes sense, because that's also what Horizon was.
So why don't they just give it to Ubisoft?
Why don't they just give it to Ubisoft? Well, because Ubisoft isn't actually their development house.
Oh, I guess that's fair.
Neither here nor there. I think that what was interesting is that they had a lot of brand new IPs that they were coming out with, and I wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about those. One of the early ones that they had was one called South of Midnight, which is a really interesting, stylistic piece that's set in what looks like the bayou in the south, with some of the more spiritual elements, like of characters from like voodoo and mythology of that sort, and coming from Compulsion Games. Compulsion did We Happy Few, and they did Contrast before that. What I found really neat is that I'm going to tell you about a few different games. And they're all coming from these studios that I think people already have a pretty good idea of their products. And what they did very smartly is before they really even did anything of showing the game, they made it very clear who the studios were that were working on it. So even though they're new IPs, you're familiar with the company itself. And in South of Midnight, before you even see any of the characters on screen, Compulsion Games comes up across the side of like the boathouse as they're panning along. But that looked really interesting. 33 Immortals is going to be a game from Thunder Lotus, who are the ones that did Spiritfarer, and I'm always happy about that. But this one's like, it's like Hades. Remember Hades?
Yeah.
Okay, it's like Hades, but it's a 33-player co-op version of Hades.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Because don't you have 33 friends that want to do Hades?
So it's a boss rush? It's raid battles from Warcraft, but an ARPG?
It's a co-op action roguelike, and you can play with up to 33 players.
That's
why it's called 33.
Is it like Fall Guys?
No.
Is it like you do dungeons and you complete levels by killing monsters?
You would complete it by killing monsters, but I think if it's anything like a Hades, you keep going, like through level after level after level until like everybody dies.
So it's basically just like the people who would play World of Warcraft and just do dungeons and raids.
I think they're hoping that that's the kind of crew that they're going to get, but people who also liked Hades and kind of like the punishing action roguelike sort of setup.
Sure, but I don't feel like the people that like Hades are the same people that are going to want to sit in a game with 32 of their favorite people.
They don't have to be your favorite people. They can be assholes. They can be...
Sure, but 30 people requires teamwork.
Theoretically. I mean,
and
I guess that's
strategy.
I guess that's going to be where the fun comes in, Alex, of seeing if 33 people can actually get on the same page of being cooperative.
I'm sure they can't. And unless it's ranked, then you're going to have people just trying to one-up everyone and not listening.
It's pretty great. Can't wait for that. I can't wait to see the Let's Plays. I like Thunder Lotus. Spiritfarer was a great game, and this has a wonderful visual style to it. I'm not big on, like, big co-op action stuff, so...
Yeah.
But I might try it out. 33 Immortal. A lot of these are coming, like, day one to Xbox Game Pass, by the way. Like, these are brand new releases. They'll probably be coming directly to Xbox Game Pass and in the next year or so. One of the big ones that they announced was, obviously from our friends at Obsidian, Avowed. Here's the question I guess I would pose to you. What if Obsidian made Elder Scrolls?
New Vegas, but not in the post-apocalypse?
Yeah. I guess it's actually set in the universe of the Pillars of Eternity series. So, So it does have a little bit of a standing lore that it's in. But it's going to be in first person, it's going to be like an action RPG, and it's coming from Obsidian. This is going to be 2024, and it looks good. Obviously, I'm a big Obsidian fan.
Yes.
Really love their work, and love their writing.
You should just try to get someone from Obsidian on our show sometime, so you can fangirl over them.
Yeah, I'm going to fangirl freaking out. Oh.
Yes.
By the way, folks, I don't know if I've mentioned this. I really love Obsidian. Outer Worlds was great. I love New Vegas. Oh, also, they were the ones that did KOTOR 2 Sith Lords. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that, Al? Okay.
I think I did.
Okay.
What else did they do, Nathan?
What else did they do? Oh, didn't they do Tyrant? I want to say that they... Or Tyranny. Sorry, Tyranny.
Ah.
I haven't gotten a chance to play Tyranny yet.
Oh, I have that.
I have it too. I just haven't gotten a chance to play it yet.
Well, you need to get... Anyways.
They also made Grounded.
They did.
They made Grounded.
I was thinking of Snowblind, who did Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2.
Oh, yeah.
But, I don't think they're around.
No,
Anyways.
I think they're gone.
And Black Isle Games.
Black Eye, yeah. Well, so much of Black Eye, not to get too off topic, but so much of the people that worked on Black Isle Games ended up working with Obsidian. So
There you go.
There was another game coming out. There's so many games called Jusant. I think I'm saying that right. From Don't Nod. Don't Nod is an interesting company because they usually make those narrative games. The Life is Stranges and those kind of things.
Yep.
This is not. This has narrative elements, but it's actually mostly focused on this kid, and he's got this little blobby thing in his backpack, and it's a lot of mountain climbing.
Okay.
And you go up to these summits, and you talk to the people that are in there, so I guess there's some narrative elements.
So it's like a short
different.
hike?
It's like that, yeah, I suppose so. We got 5 seconds, basically, of a game called Still Wakes the Deep.
Is that like Dredge?
No, I think that this is going to be more of a horror game.
Okay.
It's coming from the Chinese Room. Dear Esther was one of the things that they made. But they're kind of well known for the narrative games. And this looks like that, but it's also a horror game that's going to be in first person, where you are on an offshore oil rig that might be visited by some kind of almost Cthulhian horror, it kind of feels like.
First of all, Cthulhu is an ideal, not a monster.
Right.
Second of all, you remember when we talked about that really photorealistic body cam shooter game?
Yeah.
Graphics like that in an offshore oil rig horror game, please.
It doesn't have that level of realism, I don't think, from the body cam, but it is kind of set as a cosmic horror sort of inspired offshore oil rig where you're all alone on this thing. And so, seems cool. Towerborn is going to be coming from the folks that made Banner Saga, so Stoic. Your whole civilization has been relegated to this one windmill, and you have to send crews out into the wilderness to battle the monsters that are continually surrounding this one last bastion of civilization that you've built.
Okay. So it's Frostpunk meets Darkest Dungeon.
I guess that's not a bad way of explaining it. Yeah,
Did you play Frostpunk?
Sadly, yes.
What do you mean sadly?
I didn't like Frostpunk.
Oh, I mean it was a decent game.
It was a decent game, but I got frustrated with it.
It's supposed to be frustrating.
Well, then they succeeded tremendously well.
It's supposed to be a not city builder because you're not building a city. It is a survival game.
Right.
But with city building elements.
Right.
But they're more for survival. I thought it was decent, not worth me playing multiple games of it. I did finish the main storyline though, and thought it was pretty well done. So
right. I think the thing that frustrated me is that even when I would plan this stuff out and tried to work out where I needed to focus on stuff, they just throw monkey wrenches into it continuously and just totally screw up my entire plan. And I'm well, then why am I even making plans? What's the strategy here?
Yeah, I got plan ahead and then have backup plans.
You gotta apparently have backup plans, but it got very frustrating with me. It's oh yeah, no, I'm gonna help the citizens and I'm gonna create comfort, and then they still rebel.
Yeah, well, you gotta make the children work so that you can afford to have all the coal you need to keep them warm, otherwise everybody dies.
This is true. Yeah, I could... yeah, I mean, come on, child labor, yee. The last one, though, got everybody very, very excited, and I have to tell you that I am one of them. This is definitely one of the big ones that I'm going to be waiting on pins and needles for. and it's a game called Clockwork Revolution.
Okay.
Clockwork Revolution, Alex, is going to be a first-person RPG set in sort of like a cyberpunky kind of, or I should say a steampunky kind of world, and it's being done by In Exile. They're the ones who made the Wasteland series.
Oh, and you do like the Wasteland series. So
In Exile is an excellent game house. I have not seen them do like a first-person action game before, which is what this is. It looks fantastic, and I'm very, very excited. When people saw that, it was a world premiere, no one had seen this before. People were very, very excited to see this game, and it is definitely on a lot of people's radars now, and I totally understand that, because again, before they even showed anything, that's the great thing, before they really showed much of the game itself, In Exile Entertainment shows up, and immediately I go, ooh, and then I see that it's not a Wasteland game, and I'm instantly intrigued, because, oh, it's not a Wasteland game, well then what are they making? And when they showed the world building that they're building for this, which looks kind of Bioshock inspired almost, you know, that kind of like neo-futurism sort of thing, or the old school kind of futurism.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff, so looking forward to that. But I was very impressed just by the amount of new IPs that they were showing off that were probably about 50% of the overall show, interspersed between sequels and reboots. Loved all of that, and then obviously Starfield, which is coming from Bethesda. I just really wanted to highlight the fact that there were so many new IPs that were coming out.
Which is always fun.
I'm always happy to see it, but I think that they did a very, very smart thing in that they were highlighting the new IPs that are from existing companies that they have, existing developers, that already have an established body of work. So people are on board for them because of the studio that's developing them, even though they're a new IP. Microsoft did a good showing. I don't know if any of them are going to be actually good when we play it, but if their goal was to make you excited and, you know, show a presentation of what we want the game to be, they definitely succeeded in that.
Well, that's good at least.
Yeah. I mean, they did what they needed to do in making people excited for the product that's coming.
They generated the hype.
And unfortunately, in this day and age, hype is kind of everything. I don't know if any of that even appeals to you, or if any of that sounds interesting to you.
Some of it, I'll have to check out some of the stuff.
If you watched the conference, or if you saw any games that were in any of these showcases that you liked, please let us know in the comments down below. Let me know if you're excited for any of them, and why I might need to be less or more excited about the ones that I seem to be citing here.
Yeah, tell Nathan to be less excited about Obsidian.
That's not possible, Alex. No one can make me less excited about Obsidian. I'm a stand for only a few companies. Obsidian's one of them.
There you go.
That not a lot of game dev houses that I have that kind of passion for, but Obsidian's one of them, because I really have never been disappointed by Obsidian.
There you go.
Even their games that just completely everyone forgets, like Alpha freaking Protocol. It's just like, I still liked Alpha Protocol. I was just talking a little bit about the Xbox showcase, and there was a game that I didn't really get much into, but I thought made pertinent sense to talk about right now, because you were interested in talking a little bit about space, and...
Space. As Tim Curry once said,
Spice! And, yeah, we gotta make... The title of this episode has to just be Spice.
With that one screenshot of Tim Curry saying it.
Yes, the legend.
From Command & Conquer Red Alert 3.
3, yeah. The legend himself. But anyway, we were going to talk a little bit about space, and I thought it made sense because they released some stuff about Starfield. Actually, they had a whole thing after the initial conference, which was an in-depth look at Starfield. It was like 45, 50 minutes or something of talking about Starfield specifically. And one of the things that people talked about afterward was the debate, as we get into a lot of times, about size. The size of a space game, how big it actually is, and if it really should be as big as they're making it. Because I know you haven't seen the conference, but I will give you an impression that they're talking about 1,000 planets.
Okay. Are these like fully crafted out planets, like fully explorable? Like, how big are these planets? Are we talking there's a settlement you go into and a little bit of wilderness?
This is what I don't know. I have an impression that there are certain worlds that are like the core story worlds, where there are actual towns and cities and hubs and everything like that, and that there are other planets that you visit that have more radiant quests that are like procedurally generated, so that there's a combination of them. That you have some places that are definitely crafted specifically, and that there are other places that are like procedurally generated areas. I don't know what the percentage from one to the next is. If I were a betting man, I would probably say that there's like 5 to 10 of the worlds that are crafted specifically so that they can do stories and missions and hub worlds and characters, and that there would be more radiant quests on, the rest of them, so that you can gather resources or expand your lore, or, go and check out the cosmos and everything like that. That would be my guess. Maybe 10 to 20, because it sounds like they're trying to... The overall quest line is about discovering some of the questions that have plagued mankind from the very beginning, now that they can shoot for the stars. So anyway, this has kind of led to a lot of people asking about, the size and the scope of space games and what that actually means. And you had some thoughts about space.
Yeah, I play a fair number of space games. I enjoy a fair number of space games. I have Elite Dangerous that I have several hundred hours into and is a 1-to-1 scale of the Milky Way galaxy. No Man's Sky, which is just enormous, but also feels incredibly empty at times.
Yeah.
There's games like Stellaris, for instance, which is, again, galaxy spanning. Huge. There's other games too that I have like on my wish list, like Everspace 2, for instance, you've played a bit of.
Oh, yes, and I've played more of it since it released in full from out of game preview.
And then I think there was one Rogue Galaxy or something like Rebel Galaxy. There's just a ton that I love the idea, and then like EVE Online, things like that. There's a ton of space games out there.
Mm-hmm.
But scope and scale are one of those things that I think space games do wrong. I don't think they focus where they need to a lot. Because they want to go, space is big, and we want to show you how big space is.
Yes.
And Nathan, have you ever watched a movie or something with space in it?
I mean, I hear that there was this thing about wars in the stars and treks in stars, and I've seen some things about that.
So, what do they usually gloss over in those movies?
Oh, the emptiness of space. That's why they need to do hyperdrives, and they need to do warp speed.
Yeah, so the big thing that they gloss over in space media is the fact that space is vast, empty, and boring. The hyperdrive, the warp drive, the faster-than-light drive.
Yeah. In
my favorite book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes.
You know how they do it in that? It's the infinite improbability drive. It just kind of pops you out somewhere.
Right.
Warhammer 40k, space, faster than light travel isn't quite fast enough. We're going to use some, psychic interface here with the warp space, and it kind of poops you into another realm of reality and then poops you back out. I don't know why I'm using the word poops.
Well, because space is shit? I don't know.
There's a lot of emptiness with nothing going on.
Have you ever played Breathage?
I have it. I have not played it yet.
Okay. I think in some way, maybe I'll do it on stream at some point, just because to kind of showcase, but I think that kind of explains your problem with the vastness. Like, it's in space, but it's obviously trying to, hone itself in, but there's still a lot of your time where you're trying to traverse the emptiness without running out of oxygen before you have to get back to a hub, and just trying to find the little elements that are scattered throughout what is now this gigantic open space. Some people have called it like Subnautica in space, but I think that that's a little bit of a disservice to Subnautica, because at least in Subnautica it feels like the world is more alive than that.
Yeah.
But in space it's literally just that vacuum,
right,
that has these little things in it.
So in the case of like Starfield, if it's 1,000 planets, that's a lot of planets. But if each one is really only the size of, say, a city in Skyrim,
yeah,
is it really fair to call them planets and not just 1,000 different individual cities?
Or if they are as big as like a planet, but the amount of stuff you actually do is just indicative of what you'd see in a normal hub area of a Skyrim. Like, like imagine if you had Riften, and it's like the amount of stuff that you did in Riften, but it's a planet. It's the same amount of content, but it's on a literal planet now. So you have to kind of go around to find
and then it begs, how big are the planets? Are they the size of planets in, say, Outer Wilds? Which is to say, small and
Very
traversable
small.
in a matter of minutes?
Right.
Or are they big, like in Elite Dangerous, when the planet you land on can literally be hundreds of kilometers, in diameter?
Right.
Or thousands of kilometers in diameter. Like, you can land on it, get out into a moon buggy, essentially, and then, like, this planet has a diameter of 300, meters or whatever it is, the kilometers.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I could travel around this entire planet on this car, and it would take me a while. So space is big. We know this. Space is also very empty, despite how much stuff is in it. As, again, my favorite book, Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, is space is really big. Mind-bogglingly big. It's also really boring.
Yeah.
I have been noted to say, probably on multiple occasions, I think space games could do better focusing down on a smaller area of space. So, 1,000 planets? Don't need that. Give me 10.
Yeah, give me 10 that are really, rich in what they do. Hey, listen, if you were giving me, like, 10 planets, and each one of those planets was, like, the content and the size of a Skyrim, that's way more than I ever needed,
Yeah.
Like,
So,
Skyrim was big enough.
Humans in real life inhabit one planet.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to do here.
Yeah.
When we don't do a fraction of it.
No,
so, like, our solar system has, at least 8 other planets, depending on how you're counting.
Sure.
And dwarf planets. And, like, even if you're to set a game in space, in our solar system, if you wanted to, you could make it a 1-to-1 size of our solar system and actually have it still be hundreds of thousands of miles.
Yeah.
And from one side, like, to the other. From the sun out to the furthest point would be hundreds of thousands of miles. I think millions, to be fair. I don't remember how big our solar system technically is.
Right. Well, I mean, if you think about, like, the size of something like a Jupiter, you can't, like, get around Jupiter in, like, if it was walkable, it would take you your lifetime, practically, to get around.
Several of them.
Several of those lifetimes. Now, if you include, then, moons and everything, so that you have, like, Io and Europa and all of those, and going around those, Enceladus, then you add that all together, that's not just a game world that's literally your lifetime. If we get to a point where you can take your entire lifetime to try and get through a game, it's a little big. And I wouldn't necessarily mind it if you were providing context for it, but obviously they're not doing that. Like there's not, no one actually, even if you love epic RPGs, no one actually wants a game that is going to take you years and years to finish.
Right.
That's why you usually see main campaigns, even if there's all of this side stuff, that are usually like 10 to 20 hours for the main campaign, even if there's 100 hours of content in there.
Would it be really cool if a game decided to go, hey, we're making a space game, it's set in a solar system, and we're gonna have Earth, Mars, and a couple of the moons, and maybe Pluto, actually like inhabited, and then some star bases and some other bases on other moons.
Sure.
And then the rest of it has, maybe there's some mining rigs and some shipyards and stuff out there. There's stuff all over, but it's like we're only going to massively have populations on like Earth, Mars, maybe Mercury, but that's a little bit too close to the sun, so who knows. Maybe you could have one of those theoretical cloud cities in Venus.
Yep.
Since it's theorized we could have a habitable zone in Venus's atmosphere.
Right, you can't have it on the ground because you'll get crushed to bits.
Crushed and melted.
Yeah.
But, if you had something like that, but then we're gonna actually, fill it with hundreds, dozens of different places you can go.
Sure.
But it's still 1-to-1 scale with the actual solar system. You go, wow, this is a lot.
Right.
Because instead of now, you've got an entire galaxy, thousands of planets. I've got thousands of points of interest.
Sure.
In a space I'm familiar with, and it's still gargantuan.
One problem, I'll play devil's advocate here, and I'll say I think that the one problem here is when we're talking about trying to, make a space game smaller in its scale. I also think that one of the reasons people like the idea of space is because of the vastness and the enlargement of it, like how massive a world scale is. There's a certain awe and inspiring nature to the sheer gravity around you. And when we try to create those smaller spaces, you kind of still have to make it feel large in scope. Because the reason why people want to play a space game is for the very reason that it feels huge. Even if you're not necessarily going through the boring parts, it still needs to feel huge. Like, I'll tell you, I'm working my way through the Mass Effect series trilogy again. I'm doing the Legendary Edition. And they have a few, depending on which games you play, they have interesting ways of representing, like, the Milky Way galaxy. Different clusters where your ship can go to these different planets on an overmap, and if there's anything interesting you can scan the planets, and there will be occasionally some missions that are on those planets. And then when you go to those planets, you get down into the missions, and you're in the facilities or you're in the specific areas where the missions take place. So that even though, you're going to this one system and then this one planet, where you're really at is the city. You're at the city of Ilium, you're at the Citadel, you're at Omega, wherever. That it hones it back in from these very large places down to the very small ones. Where they got into trouble, as you probably know, is that after they did the trilogy, they did Andromeda. And people were not big on Andromeda. Do you know the big change that they made to the design? I don't
know what the change was in Andromeda.
Instead of focusing on the narrative of going to those very specific areas, in Andromeda, they had planets that were open world areas that you explored.
Okay.
So that you would go around and do more of the sandboxy stuff. So it was less focused on the story elements and more focused on the exploration of all of these planets that you would go to. And my remembrance, although I guess since I'm going through the trilogy, maybe I'll do Andromeda again. My remembrance is...
Oh, you have to. It's part of the trilogy.
No, Andromeda is the fourth one. It doesn't count as part of the trilogy.
Well, you have to, because now I said so.
Now you said so. But if I go back to Andromeda, I might be able to confirm this later. But the thing I remember about Andromeda is the feeling of being off the narrative track a lot, where I was just kind of like going off into seemingly nothing to experience very little that had to do with this very rich storyline and character development that I remembered from the first 3 games, which is what people really loved about it, even though space felt big. And in Andromeda, they kind of wanted to say, but now we're going to explore it, but then you create these large areas that feel more empty. They don't actually create more content,
right,
as they did from the first one.
Is this really devil's advocate or telling me that I'm right?
You're right. My devil's advocate part was the idea of making sure that you can still give the scope of the space games without losing the vastness of it. Because in those first 3 games, they still have the vastness of space.
Oh yeah, the way you do that is you let somebody stand on the ground on one of the moons of Jupiter or Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
As they view Jupiter or Saturn from the ground, looming entirely, taking up your entire sky.
Yeah. There's a thing, I took a screenshot, I think, of in the first game, where you get to, like, be on a rover on the Mako, on the moon. And you can take a screenshot where you are looking at Earth.
Yeah.
So you're staring up at Earth and getting a very good sense of scope. You mentioned Everspace 2, and I think
yes.
Everspace 2 actually does something really interesting with that. Because I was thinking about this not too long ago, about how they get around this one problem, and they do a really good job of it. They have areas where you have the missions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they know that you have this huge amount of space, and you're going to have to do it. And so they go into basically like a hyperroute. Your hyperroute takes you from the one area that you're exploring and takes you onto essentially like a 3D overmap. That's still a plane. And you can say, that's the point I want to go to, and mark it on your map. And you'll go there to another area where the actual stuff is, on a different planet. Along the way, though, you get these little signals that says, distress signal here, or point of interest, or something like that. And you can veer off and go to those places. But when you go, it's again a much smaller area of space that you're exploring that has essentially a boundary to it. Because they're saying just that. There's nothing beyond this that's worth looking at. Here's where the actual mission stuff is. Here's where it is.
It's similar but different to like how Elite Dangerous does it. It goes, oh hey, there's a thing here, but there's no boundary when you're there. It's here's where the thing is, it's here, and it takes place in this area.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, you can still go wherever you want, but it's like there's not much generated out there.
Right. So, like, I guess this is the speculative part, is that I don't know what Starfield's really going to do. I guess we're going to find out soon, because I think it launches in September. It's coming out very soon. But from what I saw, literally exploring your ship, being able to go on to other ships, doing, like, stealth missions to take over those ships, doing combat in space, doing stuff on ground. I don't know how they're going to handle this, but I guess we're going to have to wait and see. Maybe they come up with a good solution to this problem of creating a vastness of space while also not bogging you down in monotony.
Yeah. So the one thing I'm hoping from Starfield is to fight a space dragon.
There also has to be horse armor.
For my spaceship called the Horse.
Yes. You can build your ship however you want. You can.
I'm gonna
customize-
make mine a horse.
Make it look like a Trojan horse.
Make it look like a horse head, and then name it horse armor.
Horse armor. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. I think you can do that. I think
Good.
it's possible.
If I get Starfield, I'll be doing that. And
Perfect.
I like Elder Scrolls, and I liked Fallout, and I definitely never beat Fallout 4, but I'll have to keep an eye on Starfield because they do make pretty solid games for all the bugs they have.
I will shit on Bethesda a lot of the time for the amount of bugs and things, but one thing I can never really cite them for is that they don't have aspirations to make a very large, epic game. Whether they succeed or fail, they do have designs to make something that truly feels epic in scale. And more or less, that thing they tend to get right. They get the feeling of something epic and awe-inspiring, whether it succeeds or fails. But
in the meantime, if you have thoughts on space games,
yes,
the scope of them, whether they're too big, too small, or just right, maybe.
they hit the Goldilocks zone.
They hit the Goldilocks zone where life is inhabitable and you are able to sustain liquid water. If you are thinking about that, let us know in the comments what you think. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm right. Tell us your favorite space fact.
Tell us if there's a space game that you really liked and how they handled travel, because there's plenty of them out there. So Alex, on the last segment, you did mention space dragons.
I did.
And it got me to thinking about something that segues really well into our next segment. I'm so happy about that.
Good.
Saw something on one of the forums a couple weeks ago about somebody that was asking about the idea of combining monsters, making new monsters, let's say a monster mashup of sorts. The post reads, my party is soon to face a mad scientist who has been combining the DNA of different animals/monsters. I already have a chimera and manticore, but I was wondering if there were any others I could homebrew or already exist. Any suggestions? Okay, well, obviously space dragons. Dragons that are meshed with some kind of cosmic monster. That's always good. But I was just wondering, Alex, have you ever... I'm going to start here. Have you ever, in a game, homebrewed a monster that was a combination of multiple other monsters?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Half black dragon shark.
A black dragon shark?
Half black dragon shark.
Nice.
Back in 3.5, we made a dungeon. And we had a room that essentially, you know how you have rooms that are flooded and got like walkways over the water?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a walkway over water. It was a walkway over giant vat of gelatinous cube type stuff.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Very...
Except the jello, as it were, the gelatinous, like liquid in there, inhabited by half black dragon sharks.
Great.
Which we, because they are nasty, because sharks are scary and nasty. I know you love sharks.
Oh, my favorite. Why do you think I don't play Sea of Thieves?
Yeah,
Guy
so,
Bushwood can't make me do it.
Basically, the shark had a swim speed through the gelatinous cube.
Great.
Because it also had immunity to acid.
Black dragon, right?
And so, as the party was trying to cross this, maybe 10-foot wide stone thing that had some pitfall traps in it, like that would just fall away so they could fall into the acid, essentially. The sharks would be jumping over occasionally, trying to eat them.
Great. Love this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I keep thinking to myself, like, gelatinous cubes, I don't know if I can combine them with anything. Like, just from a realistic standpoint, like, what do you merge a gelatinous cube with? If it's...
Oh, you put something inside it.
You put something inside
like a half black dragon shark.
Oh, okay.
And by half black dragon, I do not mean it is, like... a small black dragon that is a shark. It was a template in 3.5 you could apply to creatures to give them the half dragon template.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Could we make... Oh, that's scary. I was just thinking of doing crossing an Ankeg with a Displacer Beast.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a Rust Goblin.
Oh no.
Yeah. So it's a part Rust monster, part Goblin. It's got all the properties of a Rust monster, but it is like goblins, and just the tribe of them. They eat metal, and if you hit them with your weapons, the metal corrodes. Pretty nasty.
I thought that Rust monsters were pretty much forbidden to use in games.
No.
No.
People just, players
like 'em.
just don't like them when you
Yeah.
use them against them.
You know what would be cool though? A Rust dragon. And when when the dragon breathes, it just rusts all the metal.
Even better is you have to make a Constitution saving throw, or it
Yeah.
oxidizes your blood.
Oh god, that's great.
Because, it's full of iron.
Yeah, that's true.
Hope you're not playing a Warforged.
Your character's dead. Yeah, that's great. I need a. I like that idea though. A Rust Dragon, and the breath weapon is literally like an oxidizing breath weapon. That would be.
I like
terrific.
I like fusing elementals together,
Oh, perfect.
which is a premise from one of my previous campaigns, where some mad scientist, we call him Doc Johnson,
Yep. Yeah.
Doc Cave
Johnson.
Was experimenting with elementals and fusing two different elementals to a core.
Okay.
And so you would have a fire and water elemental fused, which would be a steam elemental essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
Or you'd have a water and air elemental, which would be like a storm elemental.
Oh, gotcha.
You just fuse them and try different things, and that did not go over well for him, but fusing elementals is always fun. Or you could fuse, you could give something elemental properties, for instance.
Oh, okay.
But we're not doing rust elementals. No thank you.
I'm trying to remember, how do mind flayers work?
Evilly.
Okay, because I'm just thinking of what I might be able to put, like, the psychic flaying that a mind flayer can do into a monster that it really should never go into. Flying snakes. Could I make a mind flayer flying snake?
That just sounds like head crabs.
It kinda is.
So they were just looking for, like, hybrid monsters you did? Like, combining monsters to make nastier monsters?
Yeah, combining the DNA of different animals or monsters, because the mad scientist is on his mad science sheet.
Sure. I had an idea for tribes of goblins. Again, not different kind of. The other one was just one I thought of now. I had an idea before, though. Are you familiar with... Remember... Kurast in Diablo 2.
Okay.
You remember those little pygmies, little fetish assholes?
Yeah.
The blow darts?
They were dicks. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So
hated
those
them.
gave me the idea for goblins, jungle goblins that lived in the treetops. They ride dire bats,
Perfect.
and they themselves, their shamans are vampiric.
Okay.
They eat bones,
Oh my.
and they use bone spears and bone blow darts and poison.
Oh.
So,
They sound horrible.
Yeah, they sound like... The idea was, most of the time you see goblins and they're kind of not very effective in games.
No.
They're meant to be just kind of fodder. These goblins would be like, hey, yeah, we may be fodder, but our shaman is a vampire, essentially.
Right.
And then we have dire bats, and the shaman can turn into a vampire bat.
Okay.
And then we also use a ton of poisons. Good luck. Have fun.
Yeah. They're like, more evil Ewoks.
Yeah.
Like, what the scientist would be able to get its hands on. Like, we have a Chimera and Manticore combination, which just seems like a whole lot of stuff that's
just a
going on.
chimera.
That's just like, yeah, I keep thinking to myself, well, depending on how you want to do Chimera and Manticore, my god, that's a lot of heads. That's a lot of heads on there.
I would take a snapping turtle and give it rock elemental powers.
That's good.
Yeah, so you
That's
get a
good.
stone turtle.
I get the feeling like what most people would normally do is they would take a monster and they would like put an elemental frame over it,
Sure.
like realistically.
I would like to use a hook horror.
Oh, okay. I don't know that.
It's a abomination. Hook horror's got these big hooky arms that live in the Underdark, but you get a hook horror, and you combine that with, say, a minotaur,
Perfect.
a horror-tor,
That's
minnow hook. I don't know. You call it whatever you want. So you get a minotaur that instead of big, bulky minotaur arms has giant hook blades for arms.
maybe we do something a little bit smaller too. Like,
sure.
What if we took like sprites?
Sprites are dicks already.
Exactly. Sprites are already dicks. But then if we combine them with something, they could be even bigger dicks.
Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper. That's... We combine the sprites with some black cherry.
I was thinking mimic sprites.
Mimic sprites. What do they mimic? Other sprites?
Anything small.
Oh, okay.
But their sprites are like tricksters, so...
Right. So this works out well.
Maybe it takes the form of a coin.
Oh, yeah.
And you go, ooh, a coin, and you go to pick up like a pile of gold, and it fucking bites the shit out of you.
And they start flying.
Yeah.
Flying mimics. Small flying mimics.
Yeah.
Perfect. Just like a horde of flying mimics. Just nightmare fuel right there. Could you combine a mimic with a gelatinous cube?
I don't see why not. It's kind of... It'd be a gelatinous mimic.
Well, I
would
think
it make it?
I see.
So you give like
yeah.
So what you do is you give a gelatinous cube or a smaller cube, the mirror image spell.
Okay. Yeah.
Or something like that. Not mirror image. The one where it's disguise essentially.
Yeah. Illusion, minor illusion, or major illusion.
Yeah.
Sure.
Major illusion makes it really undiscernible from something. Then you touch it and it's gelatinous cube.
Right. I just kind of like the idea of like, you go up to the treasure chest, but it's not a mimic. It's like you go to reach in and the cube just like drags you in instead of it like coming out and going rare. That's a thought. Or, even better, the chest is real.
Yeah.
But the floor around the chest is the gelatinous cube. So when you walk up to the chest, you fall into the gelatinous cube that's on the floor beneath you. It's disguised itself as the floor. The floor is cube.
Okay, the floor is not lava, the floor is cube.
The floor is cube. That's right. And then the chest could also be a mimic, but it's a different...
Great.
Yeah. So it dissolves you, and then the mimic can eat your bones. Yum, 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 yum.
Yum, 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 bones.
Yeah. It'd be pretty great. You can... They work together so well. Gelatinous cubes and mimics really got to work together more often.
I say, on the other side, we make a not-so-terrifying but kind of strange monster called the Centahorse.
The Centahorse? Isn't that just a centaur?
No. It's a horse, but instead of 4 legs, it's got many more legs, and it is very long.
Oh, okay. a centipede horse. Yeah. The horse centipede. That's the new horror.
The horsepede?
The horsepede. Absolutely.
Great.
Love it. Oh, I can combine 2 things that I definitely always wanted to combine, which is the Pegasus and the unicorn.
That's already a thing.
Pegacorns.
No.
Pegacorns.
Unisys.
No, I think they're actually called alicorns.
Whatever.
But it doesn't.
You've been watching My Little Pony again?
I don't want to talk about this, Alex, anymore. Okay, this was a good segment, everyone. What monsters would you create into an interesting combo if you got the chance? Would you do any of the above or not? Please let us know in the comments.
No telling us that you do a mimic and a nymph together, though. That's not okay.
Take a dryad and a gelatinous cube. You deserve what you get.
You get what you deserve.
Yes, you do get what you deserve. Yeah, you enjoy that. It's the last night of your life. Alex, I think we've gone on a wonderful journey through the mind on this episode.
Something like that.
Yeah. Alex, if they wanted to go to any other place where they could get more of our journey of imaginations, where could they go on the internet?
Imagination Land, also known as TotalPebbleKnockdown.com.
When you get over there, you can check out some of our Patreon-only features, and you can also check out Titanium Mine and Creatures, which are some other segments that we do. You can also find us on social media. I am at Titanium.
I am at EXP Limited. Our show is at Pebble Knockdown.
And do not forget to check us out on every podcast app known to mankind, and please rate and review where applicable. It always helps us out. That being said, I think that we can get out of here with all of these nightmare fuel creatures that we built. You know what? We'll jettison them off to the far reaches of space, and we'll probably never even see them when we get there.
Yes, Space Parthenax will eat them, don't worry.
Yep, perfect. Can't wait. Space Dragon. Space Dragon! That's all we need. Ooh, you know what? I just started to realize the worst monster for space are the rust monsters.
Yeah, that's probably not so great for your ships.
Exactly. It'd be like the trouble with tribbles, but with rust monsters.
Right.
And they just eat your ship while you're in.
There was a creature like that in an episode of Farscape.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're disguised as metal ingots.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And they would eat through ship hulls.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, folks.
Bye.